Thank you for joining us. We'd like to thank the UPCI for their partnership with BXS Insurance and Church Mutual Insurance to offer this property and casualty insurance program made available to all of our churches throughout the country. This partnership brings a lot of great opportunities for our churches. As we go through the outline, we're going to talk about the benefits of the program, but more importantly, we wanted to outline the accomplishments of the past year and a half. So far, we have insured over 780 churches, campgrounds, and Bible colleges throughout the country, and we look forward to growing with that. When we were asked to do this seminar, we wanted to do something a little more comfortable. Insurance in itself is probably, for most of you, not the most interesting topic to listen to. So we did not want our entire thing to be rehearsed. We just wanted to sit down. We're going to have some conversations, interject a little bit on certain things. One thing that comes up with churches and pastors is they don't really understand insurance, and that's perfectly fine, because a pastor on their day-to-day, they're going through counseling. A lot of them are principals for their church school. They're having to deal with phone calls for birthdays, funerals, everything in between. And so a pastor having to sit down and be an expert at insurance is not the easiest thing to do. So part of our discussion, we wanted to acknowledge that, and we wanted to thank you, because we understand that going through the day-to-day routines, when this comes up once a year, it can be a little bit stressful. It's very time-consuming, and we want to try to limit that and help you out in these areas. One of the things we're going to talk about is our new partnership with Church Mutual. Church Mutual is the largest insurance carrier in the nation for churches, campgrounds, and nonprofits. As we were going through this process, we did speak to multiple carriers, very qualified carriers throughout the country. One of the things that we were very determined in this partnership to see was the accountability through all 50 states. If we're going to partner with you, do you have the ability to write in Florida, California, Alaska, Hawaii? We wanted to be sure we covered every base. In this great partnership, Church Mutual did have a lot of experience in some of the states where other carriers are a little more hesitant to write, but they certainly were in the lead in our Gulf Coast states where we have hurricanes, California where we are having some wildfires. So they understand the process. They know what it means to be there with you, to help guide you through these times. In the past year, we had to endure the hurricanes down south for Louisiana and Houston, Texas area, and Church Mutual could not have been a greater partner. They were right there, boots on the ground. As you go through these scenarios, there are a lot of times when you're not understanding the process. You're a little bit confused, scared, just to be fair. And through this partnership, not only did you have BXS helping you, but you also had the partnership of Church Mutual. So we did want to give a special recognition to them throughout this process. Now, with churches, and being that we've got over 4,300 churches throughout the country, we did want to be fair that yes, in the first year and a half, we are writing 780, and that is a great accomplishment, and that speaks volume that Church Mutual across the country is the largest provider for individual churches in the UPCI. But we also wanted to let you know that this is not a one-size-fits-all. Some churches, there may be a carrier that might be a little more, that might have a little more of an appetite to write your church. And being fair with that, we also are an agency at BXSI that can provide those opportunities. Although we have a partnership with certain carriers throughout the country for certain programs, that does not mean that we cannot find you another home. Maybe you had a bad experience with a certain carrier, maybe you're just not too sure yet, or maybe you want several options. At BXS Insurance, we can provide those quotes for you and bring in some help. Christy Nagle, who is one of our top producers with our company, she has a great representation with nonprofits and churches, and in fact, whenever we started this program, I was very adamant that we wanted to include her just because of her knowledge in this field. Whenever you're looking at all 50 states, it can be a little bit daunting whenever you're trying to write insurance cover in all 50 of these states and you're going, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? I don't know anything about wildfires over here, but we've got hurricanes all down here. So having somebody with the experience like Christy was invaluable to this program. Another person that's not with us today that's a key member of your team is Ken Estes. Ken is one of the largest producers here at BXS Insurance and also in the nation. Ken was vital to this in the experience of handling other programs across the country. And so we did want to give him a special shout out and some recognition. The person that we have right here is Brendan Monahan. Brendan is somebody I would consider the cyber guru expert of BXS. He was invaluable when discussions would come across We understand we've got to have insurance for the property. We understand we got to have insurance for the vehicles, liability, all these things that come with it. But one topic that we are going to get to later is cyber. And that is something today that if you have not heard about it yet, just get ready, because you are probably going to hear more and more about it as we go through. As we kick off on this, insurance is extremely important, but understanding the lines of coverage is just as important if you are a pastor. We understand that you're probably not the insurance expert, as we do not expect you to be. But all you can ask is that you have a team of competent people that can come to you, deliver an outline of what you're buying, and more importantly, that you understand when a situation occurs, do we have a plan to handle that? Some of the lines of coverage, and I'll let Christy also kind of come in here, one thing that we're learning as we have insured a lot of our churches, especially our churches with schools, is that whenever we get to them, one of the topics that they don't seem to really have a grasp on is sexual misconduct, that particular coverage. And that was something that was a bit alarming, because sexual misconduct is one of the largest causes of loss to a church. Whether you just have a school, a Sunday school, a youth group, whether you're a church of 10 people or a church of 1,000 people, this is a serious topic throughout the country. And Christy, I'm sure you've seen some of this throughout your career.
Yes, and what's interesting is so many of the churches that I have visited with initially, you don't know what you don't know. And so in looking at their policies, we can see that they'll have a $50,000 limit for sexual misconduct. And that's basically a throw-in coverage that a carrier gives without having to really do any underwriting. They'll say, well, we'll give you $50,000 of coverage. When in reality, you might have, say you have a $5 million building, and you might think that's your biggest expense for insurance. But if you have a sexual misconduct claim, if you consider that a property loss is capped, right? They are not going to pay you any more than what it would cost you to rebuild your building. But if you have a sexual misconduct loss, it can affect so many members in your congregation. It can affect your public relations. It can affect your leadership and the decisions that they made in putting the person in charge who is accused of, the occurrence. There are so many things that go into play there. So the coverage is absolutely necessary. And you also have to consider the fact that there are charges that are not based in fact. Some people make up charges. Those things you absolutely need that coverage for your church, and $50,000 is not nearly enough. So one of the things that we like to do is come in, talk to you about what coverages you have in place, like sexual misconduct, like directors and officers liability, like cyber liability, and see, do you have those in place? Are you adequately insured? Talk to you about the exposures, about the risk, and then give you all the information that you need to be able to make an educated choice about the coverage that is right for your church.
Yeah. I know one of the most common, when we have an introduction with the pastor, if it's not in the first sentence, it's probably in the second. And one of the things that they scream out to us, and I have it written here in all caps, is save us money. Can you beat the current premium I have right now? And although that is our goal, we want to save everybody money. We just cannot promise that, because one, we have to see, is this an apples to apples comparison? Do you have sexual misconduct on your church? Do you have directors and officers? I know we recently came across a church in Texas. We won't go into their name. They do have a school, and it's a pretty good sized church. And first thing they came up to us, can you save us money? Can you save us money? And we said, well, let us see your policy first. Let's take a look. Let's kind of break this down. And in doing so, we saw that they had a pretty prominent school, but only $150,000 in sexual misconduct. So not only do they have a large church, not only do they have a large school, they had little to no sexual misconduct in their values. And so right there, if we were going to do apples to apples all day, we're already outpriced. I mean, you're going to be more with us. So we do want to sit down with you. We want to have an educational talk with you. We want to go through the details. Do you understand what you have? And again, don't feel upset. Don't feel bad. This is what we're here to do, is to educate, to teach. We're not experts at preaching. We're not experts at Bible studies. We leave that to you. And in this category, we want to be your expert for anything. Even if you're not a client of BXS or Church Mutual, we want you to feel free to reach out to us, call us. There's no such thing as a dumb question. We're here for you. We want to be there for every step of the way.
Well, William, and don't forget, William just got a call the other day that we chatted about. One of the district superintendents was asking when they have speakers come in or evangelists come in to preach or speak at their camps, how are they covered for their bodily injury? Do they have to buy workers' compensation coverage for them? And those are probably questions that if you haven't asked yourself at your organization, now that we're bringing it up, maybe you start to wonder, is this something that I need to consider? So anytime questions like that come up, one of the reasons that we feel like we can be a great partner for the UPCI
Absolutely.
is because you can call us and you can ask these questions and have us, talk through the scenario and all of the events that are going on and be able to let you know what the best action would be.
Absolutely. So the next time your renewal comes up, I would try to caution you, instead of asking, what is the lowest premium I can get? I would ask your agent, can you just sit down with me and can you explain every line of coverage we have? And sit down with that agent and give them scenarios. Do we have a plan for active shooter? Do we have a plan for if an allegation is brought against our church? What happens if fraud's committed in our church? The church does have a fiduciary responsibility to the tithe payers, to the donors. So there's a lot of things here that you want to go through, and be sure that you have a plan. And again, if you're not a client, it's okay. We want to sit down and talk with you. We want to have these discussions. And they can be just as informal as this. We would love to come to your church, go through all the do's and don'ts of the program, talk about, their benefits in your state perhaps. And as we go into this next segment, before we go any further into the limits of coverage, I would like to talk to you about the benefits of the BXSI UPCI National Insurance Program. Most of you have probably seen something akin to this, which is the flyer that we have going out. Now, the format may change, and we do want you to know that the benefits are depending on the state that you are in. But for the majority of our churches throughout the country, if you're in our program, you will receive a group discount. And that discount, it does have to comply with the laws of that state, but it can be anywhere from up to 15%, all the way down to 10, all the way down to 5. It's going to depend on your loss ratio, but we do have the ability for you to earn a discount in the process of quoting you. Another great benefit, and something I think that some of our churches may be seeing now across the country. In fact, I got a couple calls throughout the week that some churches are now receiving their dividends. If you are in a state allowed by law and you are in our program, you have the opportunity to receive up to 10% back in dividends of your premium. And what this means for one of the churches that I currently write right now down in the Baton Rouge area, they pay a pretty sizable amount in premium, which is fair to say just because of where we're located. And whenever we got to talking about their premium, it was a little bit of a hesitation just because of how much it was. When we did quote them, thank God, we were able to save them some money, which was great. But also, we let them know that if you are in the program for up to 18 months, depending on your loss ratio, which means, don't forget, a dividend is a perk, it is a benefit. This is to encourage you to practice safety, to encourage you not to file little claims here and there if they can be fixed. We want to work with you on that. But for churches to be able to receive back 10%, the ability of 10% back in what they're paying in their package premium, that could be pretty sizable. I know a lot of the times when we talk to churches, a couple $100 means a lot to them. Well, if you had the chance to earn back up to 10% of what you're paying back in the package premium, that could be pretty sizable to you. So that is the second benefit of this program. The third is that we do have a dedicated safety committee. And what that means is throughout the country, although you've got a team here at BXS, and whenever you do call in, we do have a larger team working behind the scenes. But we want to hear what's going on throughout the year. We want to hear about your experiences. If you're on the East Coast battling storms or hurricanes, if you're through the plains of the United States and you're coming through tornadoes, hail damage, things of that nature, you're in the Gulf Coast and you're having to go through hurricanes on the West Coast, fires, wildfires, we want to hear about your experience because we want to enhance our ability to get to you quicker. We want to enhance our response to dealing with the situations. We want to be sure that when you have a claim, you feel heard.
Don't forget about Snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon. We do not want to forget about that. There's just a lot of opportunities in this program, and so we do want to list some of the safety committee members because you're probably going to be very close to a few of them. We've got Pastor Tim Gaddy, who's been kind enough to allow us to use his church today to film this. He is, if you are in this area, whether you're in the program or not, if you have questions about insurance and you want to try to figure out how to get in touch with us, if you're going through a claim and you've got satisfaction with how the process is being handled, or maybe you're dissatisfied with how the process is being handled, we want you to feel free to not only reach out to us, but reach out to him and say, Pastor Gaddy, when you get a chance, could you please talk to them? We were experiencing some things. We thought it may have gone a little bit smoother. Maybe give us some advice. We're not perfect, and we want to try to perfect the process year after year. So Pastor Tim Gaddy is one of the dedicated Safety Council members. We've got Brother Johns over in the Georgia area. We've got Brother Flowers in the Dallas area. We've got Brother Gleason up at headquarters in St. Louis. We've got Brother Art Hodges over on the West Coast. So out the gate, we've got some pretty great men that have been willing to step in, serve as safety committee member. And not only that, but throughout the year, we're going to be talking to them about ideas. Every year we come across kind of an itinerary of things that we hope to implement throughout the year for our churches, but also ideas on safety. What can we do to be safe? If you've got a lot of bushes around your church, you've got a lot of hay. Some churches do. They like to do their landscape with bales of hay around the church, just kind of, just nice scenery. Well, that is nice, and it is beautiful. But also, we want to talk to the churches about, let's be sure we have some distance from the actual tree, from the actual shrub, from the decor out there, so that if it does catch on fire, it's not right there on top of the building. These are just safety tips that we want to try to implement throughout the year. A lot of churches as well, and these guys can probably attest to it, every church is different. You might be coming across an issue, and again, we just go back to it because these are very difficult issues that our church does face. But sexual misconduct, active shooter is one of the most common things we keep hearing about throughout the churches. What do we do in the event? If your church would like, we've got no problem hosting a live Zoom call with you. We've got no problem working with our partners, whether it's Church Mutual or someone else, to try to create videos for your church, how to handle these scenarios when they happen. Those churches, if you're reaching out, there's a good chance that you're probably one of those churches that we would like to use as an example of reaching out, asking the question. Don't be afraid. If it's a crazy question, like I said, we want to hear it. We're here for you on all these scenarios.
And one thing too, if you have a fleet, if you have vans, not all of our churches have vans and buses, but some do. And if you need help creating a fleet safety program, if you need help building, claim kits on what to happen if there's an incident and all the steps to follow to make sure that you've got what you need in place to have that claim covered as quickly as possible, we can step in and help with those things as well. So basically every coverage line there is, we can work as your partner to help you develop a risk management program around that.
Yeah. And again, before we go on, I just want to outline the benefits of the program. And this is depending on the state that you're in. For the majority of the states in the United States, they will qualify for up to all of these programs. If you're in the state of Louisiana, you may not be eligible for the group discount, but you are eligible for the dividend. If you're in the state of Arkansas, lucky you are actually eligible for both the group discount that we offer once we quote your church and the dividend. So these are perks. Check with us, ask us, hey, if we have an option, can we talk to you about it? BXS, can you help us in this state? Can you help us? My friend pastor's over in Wyoming. We've got you covered. We want to be there for you to help you out. Another perk to this program that probably is not talked about enough, and again, I continue to go back to it, and we don't want to harp on it too much, but we want you to understand how important it is to have the accurate coverage here. Because of the volume that we are bringing Church Mutual on a national scale, they have agreed that if any of our churches throughout the country in the UPCI that are in the program, if they do come across a situation of sexual misconduct, you do not have to be at fear for being canceled, because that is going to typically be a pretty hefty claim. There's a chance that if you're paying $5,000 or $10,000 in premium, that claim alone can be $1 million right out the gate before anything's even done. And a lot of times with the carrier, they're probably going to raise your rates astronomically to try to push you out the way, or they may cancel you altogether because that's a pretty substantial loss. Another perk for the buying power of the UPCI, as it would be, is that with our program, you don't have to have that fear of being dropped. We're going to work with you. Church Mutual is going to work with you. In worst case, if we've got to try to find other options, we will quote you out. We're here for the long haul, through the good, through the bad. So as we've outlined, the group discount, the safety dividend, We've got the safety dedicated counsel for you, as well as the option, if you are in our program, to have some sense of solace when it comes to sexual misconduct if an allegation is brought against your church. So for this last phase, this is probably becoming, and I know this is one of Brennan's probably favorite topics, I would say that cybersecurity is probably becoming one of the largest, what would you call it? One of the largest concerns, questions throughout the country is, what do I do in the event of a cyber attack? And this is something that it affects every church, whether you're a church, again, of 10 people or you're a church of 1,000 people. If you take any form of payment online, as I do, I pay my tithes, my offerings, a lot of donations, whether it's to my church or whether it's to a nonprofit. If I can, instead of cutting a check, I would much rather just pay it online. And if you are a church that takes any form of payment online, and as COVID came around, there's a likelihood that most of the churches out there did get to some form of payment online, you are absolutely vulnerable to a cyber hack. This is a big thing going on right now in our country. And, I thought it was pretty interesting when our president was recently overseas. And one of the biggest topics that came up at the summit he was at is he had to talk to other world leaders, and I'm very thankful he did, about drawing a red line in the sand, saying, guys, we just had a massive hack in the Carolinas several months ago. That devastated families. I was actually traveling with my family during that time, and we were getting low on gas, and every gas pump was dried up, all due to a cyber attack. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a church, a small business, a large business, this can affect your home. And so as we've got Brendan here, we're going to kind of let him go into some things, some of the instances that he comes across. Again, whether it's a church, a municipality, a government official, whatever it is, these claims do arise. And we want you to know we do have solutions for that. And we hope that every time your renewal comes up that you would ask for that. So Brendan, if you don't mind, just kind of give us some ideas of things that you come across in this world and how sophisticated these cyber attacks can be.
Absolutely, and very sophisticated is where we're at today in the current environment. It's often thought that these cyber bad actors may still be those teenagers behind their computers, just trying to have a good time, and that's really and truly not the case today. We're looking at very sophisticated syndicates, cartels, many different ways to describe them, of individuals from around the world, and what they're doing is sometimes very specific and targeted, looking for one company that they're going to try to penetrate. But often it is the launching of the largest net approach, where they are simply casting wide and seeing what they can pull back in. And that's where, regardless of your specific business or if it's your personal email, you may end up getting ensnared in that net. So as you mentioned, Cody, there was that example recently with the pipeline. Really, these examples are coming about as quickly as you can open the newspaper or go to any news website. There's a new example of a new attack that's occurred, new businesses that have been compromised and that are working to find their way and navigate their way through this issue. When it comes to cyber, we're really looking at ransomware being the largest driver of events today.
Cryptocurrency.
Well, cryptocurrency being the way that the payment is effectuated when you have that ransom attack, and that's where they take over your computer. They post a message saying, if you want your computer systems back, you must pay us X amount of money in the form of Bitcoin. So that's really the one of the larger drivers today. However, particularly with what we call phishing, not spear phishing being focused, phishing being more of that casting the wide net approach, that's where you can end up with credit card information being compromised, personally identifiable information that you are responsible for and that you must then comply with the notification requirements on. It really runs the range of the risks that cyber is posing today, and unfortunately there's no sign of it slowing down anytime soon.
And something we come across, and I know that Christy's taught me a lot about this as well, is if your church does use an outside company, if they're outsourcing these payment methods, which most of your churches probably do, there's a good chance you're using another company to handle the transactions of the tithe payment, the offerings, the donations. There's this big misconception that, well, I'm outsourcing that. So they're responsible for the insurance. If something happens, if they get hacked, that company is responsible for indemnifying our people back for all that money.
And that's a misconception because people don't like to read their contracts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we have gone through this process, there's several different ways. If you are one of these churches, there's a good chance you are. If you're one of these churches that are using an outside company to handle your tithes, your offerings, your donations, the first thing we would ask is please get a copy of your contract. And if you want, feel free to reach out to us. Again, you do not have to be one of our clients. This is free consultation. Reach out to us and just ask us, hey, can you please help me find out if we are covered? Because the chances in your contract that the person you're using or the company that you're using for this method, they are only financially responsible a lot of the times for a percentage throughout the year of the fee that they collect in handling your transactions. So if your church takes in $100,000 a year, which I hope they do, but if they do, and your fee for the processing of that month is only $5 or $6 grand, then that's really, in theory, all that company is on the hook for. You, as the church, as the pastor, as the leadership, you have to answer for the rest of those fees. And that could be a very uncomfortable process of having to talk to your church. We want to help prevent that for you. If you can come by, if you can just visit us, give us a call, shoot us an email. We have solutions for these things. We've got several methods. We want to get you in touch with the right people. There are areas that we could probably help out if you're not interested in buying cyber insurance, that we may have some consultation opportunities to direct you in the right areas.
Absolutely, and that's so. One of the ways that I analogize cyber is, excuse me, with property insurance, if your home or your business catches fire, you're going to call 911. You're going to then wait and stay on the phone while the 911 operator calls the fire department. And then either while the fire department is en route or after the fire's been put out, you're then going to reach out to your insurance partner for that bucket of financial resources to make you whole again. With cyber, we haven't come together. There is no 911 number. There is no cyber fire department.
Yeah.
And so the cyber insurance companies are providing not only the financial bucket that you would find with property insurance, they're also providing these buckets for that 911 call center, that fire department team that can respond effectively to help you get on that incident as quickly as possible. And so we do have, in that vein, if cyber is maybe a step not too far. I mean, again, with cyber insurance, we're not talking about apples to apples. We're not talking about lowest price, because typically this is a new transfer of risk, so an additional premium. If that's something that maybe you aren't quite there yet, there are some other solutions to at least help you identify the 911 call center, identify those that team that can respond right away, that cyber fire department, for a very, very affordable price.
We just don't want people to panic. We don't want them to feel like all hope is lost whenever they get to this point, going, oh my goodness, what do I do?
Or open the yellow pages up on a Friday or Saturday evening looking for the solution.
That can get very costly.
Well, and one of the things that we would advise is become educated on what your state guidelines are. Yeah. One of the things Brendan mentioned is that your state determines what your response should be.
Absolutely.
If your members, if their information is vulnerable and it's been accessed. I know in Texas, we have to notify everyone who's at risk and provide 3 years of credit monitoring. Yeah. Every state is different. Some are easier and some are worse, but get educated.
Absolutely.
And not to scare, but if you have those records of members that were previously with the church, but they retired, they've moved, and that's when that incident occurs. Not only do you have Texas, but you would also have those other states as well.
Yeah.
So it comes together. It can be very complicated very quickly to make sure that you're complying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we just want to thank you so much again to the United Pentecostal Church International. We cannot thank you enough for this wonderful partnership. We're here for you. We hope that you feel that. If you meet us at this general conference, we will be there. And we would love to even give you our cell phone numbers. I think probably hundreds of ministers now have my cell phone number. I know they've got Christy's. I know they're getting Brendan's. We want you to know that you can call us. You're not just going to get some operator. Call us, talk to us, email us. Again, you do not have to be a client. We hope to make you one. We hope to earn your trust, but we are here for you. So congratulations for all of us getting back together for this great general conference. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Take care, and God bless.